Alright, this is it. The final UI feature in our tiny Laravel UI5 journey. So far, we've built a reactive UI that pulls data from Laravel. We've got a master detail layout, live filtering, smooth transitions between views. But until now, everything has just been read-only. Today, we are adding that final piece, an action that changes real data and reflects it back into the UI. One click in the UI, one update in the database, one reactive response. Here's the idea. We could build full editing into the UI, but we are not doing that today. Instead, we are just dipping our toes into the backend waters with something smaller, more focused, locking and unlocking a user account. It's a simple toggle. No form, no save button, just one action, toggle lock. Behind the scenes, this will call a backend action, flip the locked state in the database and show the changes live in the UI. The perfect entry point into full stack interaction. Okay, now that we've got the lock idea in place, why not polish the UI a bit while we are here? Right now, the page says user details no matter who you click. But we have the name of the user already, so let's use that in the title. In our actual code, we have the title property. Let's have a look. And here we go. The title property user details. We bound it directly to the page control. But we want to also create a custom header like we did before with the list control and put the title there. Let's see how easy this is with OpenUI5. SAP apps often use a custom header to structure the top of the page, and it just so happens that page also has this custom header. So let's move on with that. And when you look at the available controls that are allowed within custom header aggregation, you will see that bar optimally fits for this task. So instead of a toolbar, we just make a simple bar, and the special thing about the bar is that it has three distinct areas, slots if you want so, where you could put controls in. The one is the content left, which we will put the title in, content left, and here we put the title, text is, and we now take the name of the user and move it up there, and we will also use the content right, where we will put in an icon which displays the user. So right now we have no property on the user model that represents the locked state, so we go just for the sub icon and hard code it to unlocked. And as you can see here, we also need to declare the XML namespace core, XML namespace core, come on, ns.core, and we want it to be sub UI core, and that should it be. Okay, let's head back to the browser and look where we have come from. We just reload our page so the changes are taken up, and then we easily see name of the user in the title slot and the unlocked icon on the right side in the content right. Well, that was easy. Later on, of course, we will have to make this dynamic, but for now we are all set and good to go. So back in our page, now inside the V box, we need to add a button. So down here, below the created, we go for a button control. And I like to already start that way. And we give it a label of toggle lock, easy self-describing, and it happens that the button has a press handler, and we give it the name on toggle lock, also self-describing, and to display it nicely we also add a sub UI small margin on top here, so that there is a distinct room between the text and the button. And this we can also look at how this one looks. Should be nothing special here. Okay, let's move back to the code and create the onToggleLock event handler. You already know what to do. We go down here and add a function with the event parameter and are good to go. First, we need to get the binding context from the page. Why? Because we want to read the ID of the user. So you might already guess how this works. We get the user page, which is simply this by ID, and we called it user page. And no, we called it detail page. Sorry for that one. After that, we get the binding context. Context is user page get binding context, and from that context we get the user ID. User ID is context, and we make this defensively. No, we just go for get property, and the property is ID, like the name in your database. And remember, just like before, we are pulling here live data from the view, which is live from the database. Now, here is the really exciting part. We will trigger a backend call using our LaravelUi5 facade. So we put this into a try catch block. We go for, and we also put the catch here. And we go for await LaravelUi5, and I can hear you. Yes, you're right, we need to import this just in a minute. And we go for the action toggle lock, and we head over. Come on. Wow. And we head for the user, which is our user ID. And of course, we also need to make our function async so that everything works out fine. So to import our LaravelUi5 facade, we go here in the sub UI define section and add our namespace LaravelUi5 core and add the facade like that. And we need also import it over here so we can use it down. And I would suggest that we just also add a message toast after we complete it, and we just show like user log state toggled, and in case of an error we write out that error to the console for now. Failed to toggle lock, and we add the error, and I would say we give a message box with an error, that says failed to toggle lock, and that should it be. So message toast and message box are not known, so we also need to include those, which is sub m message box and the sub m message toast, and both of them need to go into the function import on top of that. So that's really user experience: action, feedback, and error handling. And when you look at this code, we didn't bother with like HTML, modals, or whatever. We just wrote the code like an ordinary backend programmer would do. Just a clear function and a full stack response. I think this is the kind of code you are proud to ship. Now let's take a quick look behind the curtain. That line here that you saw looks almost too simple, right? But under the hood, this little helper is doing all the heavy lifting. It resolves the route segment from the manifest. It injects the user ID into the URL. It includes the CSRF token automatically. It sends the request with the correct HTTP verb, all based on the metadata defined in your backend action class. So you stay focused on logic, not plumbing. How is this? Now, you might be wondering, but what if I need to pass more than just an ID? And the good news is, the LaravelUi5 call supports full payloads. So if, for example, you want to add some additional data, you just have it here in the additional payload object. So, like that. Simple, expressive, and extendable. And yes, it's all type hintable on the Laravel side. All right, time to bring the backend into play. To create our action, we will use a Laravel UI5 command. So let's head over to the console. Here we want to stop the server and issue the command php artisan UI5 action. And the format of the name is now, the first thing is the module that you want to add this action to, and then after the slash you give it the toggle lock, the name of the action. And this, should it be? This tells the system we are putting the action into the users module. The action name is toggle lock, reflected by a distinct namespace. 2 resources were generated. Let's have a look at them. We go in the source section of our application. We see here the actions folder has already created, and each action sits in a distinct folder where the name of the action is the folder name, and then you have the action and a handler. And as you for sure can see here, you have like all the metadata that are added to this UI5 artifact, and the handler is the, well, yes, the handler. One more step. Right now, our module doesn't know there's a new action, so we need to tell it. And this is in the getActions function. And here we just need to instantiate it, actions, and it's toggle lock the action, and we need to hand it over the module reference. And this is most important. Please always remember, the action needs each UI5 artifact that is a so-called sub-artifact of the module needs a reference to the module, so it's completely self-aware on routes and the object graph. Well, This makes the action discoverable, so the Laravel UI5 facade on the client can call it by name. Now that we've wired up the action, let's add the logic. And here's the nice part. The abstract action handler already brings in support for parameters. So let's look here. We have this neat parameterized level interface. You can see everything is documented, and so within your handler you just do the work. So we want to have a user instance for that action handler as a parameter. So here we go. We know this is the parameter attribute, and this takes a name, and the name is user. That's the way we called it and used already in the Laravel UI5 facade. Then we need the URI key, and this is also user. Then we need like the type, which is a value type model, I would say. Then we need the source. Where does this come from? And the parameter source is, it comes from the path. And then at least we need the user class, and we need to import this one up, models user, and now we are good to go, unless we say that this is the model class. Okay, that's it. Pretty print. And so with our parameter declaration in place, we can start to implement our action, and it is straightforward. We just get here our declared parameter, which is named user. To make PHP Storm happy, we type in the user variable. Then we just fill the locked like we have to do. And then we save this. Alright, but we are missing a little big piece, because the locked property right now is not part of the user. So we need to add this to the user. For this, we just need to store this flag in the database. We will add a new migration, but this time scoped to our module. So here we go. We go for PHP artisan make migration, and we call it add locked to users table. And here's the thing, we add it to a path which is UI5 users database and migration. Here we go. That keeps our schema changes bundled with the users module, here database migrations, and not lost in some global folder. So next we need to edit the migration table. We add a boolean and we call it locked, and we give it a default of false, and the down migration we just remove this table, drop column locked, and we are good to go. So next thing we need to go is run the migrations as usual. Head over to the console and go for PHP artisan migrate, and you will see there's nothing to migrate, because next thing we need to do is register our migrations with the user's service provider. So let's head over to the user's service provider, and here directly in the boot section we add this load migrations from, and then we just need to take care that we give it the relative path to our current directory, which is like the database migrations. And with that in place, our call for PHP Artisan migrate should succeed. And yes, it does. Okay, time to check everything out. So let's head over to our application. Refresh, maybe it's not possible, important, but again, we go for our first user. We click the toggle lock, we get the message user log state toggled. So when we head over to our IDE, we open our database, we say, okay, new query console. When we select name from users where locked is true, we should get like 3 rows because I needed 2 tests before I could make this video. So here we have Mr. Dominic Toy, Shana Boya and Julia O'Hara. This works, but the lock icon still always keeps the unlocked version of it, and we want to also display the locked state within the UI with the right icon. So nothing easier than that. Head over to our app, and I already said that we put here hard-coded the unlocked in, but now it's time to enhance this a little bit, because now we need to play with the visible state of this control. And OpenUI5 has a neat feature called expression binding, where you can just test our boolean locked for trueness, and if it is not locked, then we want to display the unlocked icon. But if it is locked, we even don't need an expression binding, because if locked is true, then visible will be true, and then we will just display the locked icon. Yes, here we go. And one more thing, since we are here in the user controller, we also need to take care that we really refresh the context, because here we made the change in the backend, but the front end doesn't know about this change. So here we just request a refresh for our OData model in that specific context, and with those 2 additions in place, you should see that everything works. And let's have this also live in the UI. You can see Dominic Toy locked, Shana Boya locked, Eliseo Mraz open, locked, and here we go. So this is it. So how neat is this? You don't need to touch API.php. You don't need to define a controller. You don't even need to remember the endpoint URL. You don't even need to validate the user input, because all is done in a nicely well crafted way. The metadata in this action tells LaravelUi5 the route segment to use, the HTTP method, the parameters to inject, the manifest picks it up automatically, and the front end can call it by name. Convention, structure, and full control all at once. This is what full stack integration looks like for real. So what did you just build? A full stack round trip in just a few lines. Just a clean action, trusted Laravel code, and a reactive UI that stays in sync. That's what we call the Lux stack. Laravel UI5 experience. Expressive, safe, and ready to scale. And that's it. Now our little UI journey is complete. From scaffolding to search to your very first mutation. But here's the thing. What you've seen so far is just the surface. In the next video, we'll take a step back, review the big picture, and talk about what comes next, both for your app and for Laravel UI5 as a whole. See you in the next one.